A night that should have been a celebration after a massive college football game ends in just an unspeakable tragedy. A young woman is dead, and now two completely different versions of the truth are emerging. We're going to dive into the complex and really heartbreaking case of Briana Aguilera.
So here's the core fact, and it's as shocking as it is simple. A 19-year-old college sophomore, Briana Aguilera, is found unresponsive on a street in Austin, Texas. This was just hours after she was watching her team, the Texas A&M Aggies, play their biggest rivals.
And right away, this is where the whole mystery kicks off. The official account from police points to a tragic fall, but her mother? She is adamant, claiming her daughter was killed and that this is all a cover-up. You've got two completely different narratives, one devastating outcome. So what really happened to Briana Aguilera?
Okay, so before we unpack these conflicting accounts, I think it's really important to remember who is at the center of this tragedy. This isn't just a case file. This is the story of Briana Aguilera and a young life cut way too short.
So who was Briana? Well, she was a sophomore at Texas A&M, and she had these big aspirations of becoming a lawyer. Her mother said she was living her dream, excited about her future and just loved life. And when you hear that, you start to understand why her family is finding the official story so incredibly hard to accept.
Let's walk through the timeline of that tragic night, just to get our bearings. The game kicks off at 6:30 p.m. It wraps up around 10, and after that, Briana heads to a post-game party. But then, things take a dark turn. Just before 1 in the morning, police get a call, and only 10 minutes later, Briana is pronounced dead right there at the scene.
All right, so let's start with the first version of events. This is the official story, the one that comes straight from the Austin Police Department.
So, detectives told Briana's family that she died after falling 17 stories. Just let that sink in for a second. 17 stories from an apartment building where the party was being held. The sheer height of that fall immediately creates this dramatic and just disturbing picture of her final moments.
And then comes the official statement that really sets the tone for everything. The Austin PD announced that they were not investigating this as a homicide. They said there were, quote, no indications of suspicious circumstances. Now that is a really definitive statement to make, especially when you're also stressing that the investigation is still ongoing.
But that official account, it was immediately, and I mean forcefully challenged. And it was challenged by the one person who knew Briana best, her mother. She took to Facebook, and in this really passionate post, she just made her position crystal clear. She wrote, "This was not accidental. Someone killed my Bri." She believes her daughter would never jump, and that labeling this as a suicide is, in her own words, insane.
So you can see right here, we've got these two completely opposite narratives. On one side, police are suggesting a tragic, non-homicidal fall. But on the other, a mother is alleging a violent murder and a potential cover-up where friends coordinated their stories. I mean, these two narratives just cannot both be true.
And her claims aren't just coming from a place of emotion. She points to some really specific things. She talks about inconsistencies in the stories she's getting from the police. She alleges there was a fight at the party between Briana and another girl, and said she has text messages to back it up that she feels were just disregarded. And then there's this. The person who lived in that apartment, they apparently moved out immediately after the incident.
So this all brings us back to the investigation itself, right? With so many people there and two completely different stories, how can detectives possibly find the truth in all this?
According to Briana's mother, there were 15 potential witnesses in that apartment. 15. That presents a massive challenge for any investigator. How do you sort through all those stories to piece together what really happened?
Well, a retired detective commander named Wills Feller kind of breaks it down. He explains that you can't get 15 people to tell the exact same lie. The process is really methodical. First, you interview everyone separately, never in a group. Then you identify the discrepancies, the little cracks in their stories. And finally, you conduct follow-ups, re-interviewing them to challenge their accounts based on those inconsistencies. It's painstaking work, but it's how you get to the truth.
And this is exactly why that initial police statement raised some eyebrows, even among law enforcement professionals. Feller notes that it's pretty unusual for a department to be so tight-lipped about the details, yet make such a definitive public statement ruling out foul play so early. It suggests they might have really strong reasons for their conclusion, even if they haven't shared them publicly yet.
Experts also stress how absolutely critical those first responders are. Their job isn't to figure out what happened. Their job is to secure the scene, help anyone who's injured, and preserve every single piece of evidence for detectives. Any kind of premature judgment at that stage could compromise the entire investigation.
Okay, so where does the case go from here? Well, the path to getting any clarity really depends on a few key pieces of evidence that are still pending.
Yeah. Getting to a definitive answer is going to come down to several key pieces of evidence. We're talking about the medical examiner's report, which will determine the official manner of death. The toxicology results will tell us if any substances were in her system. Her cell phone could hold vital clues. And of course, all those witness interviews are still ongoing.
The forensic evidence here is going to be crucial. Now, the cause of death is almost certainly going to be blunt force trauma from the fall. But an autopsy could reveal other injuries that happened beforehand. And the toxicology report, which can take up to 6 weeks to come back, will paint a clear picture of her physical state in her final moments.
So this leaves us with the central, lingering question. While the science and the police work continues, you have these two narratives just hanging in the balance. Will the evidence provide a definitive answer, or will the full story of what happened to Briana Aguilera in that Austin apartment remain a painful, unresolved mystery?